But the moment Joe took her first bite, she was like, "Damn, this is nasty," and asked Mai why she added so much salt. Of course, Mai knew Zheng was the one who messed with her while she was cooking, but she stayed quiet because she didn't want Joe to find out about their situation. Meanwhile, Zheng was bored out of his mind and had nothing to do, so he decided to stir things up between the two girls for entertainment. That's why he called Joe over and told her to try the shrimp, saying it's actually good, unlike the rice. Joe immediately switched her tone and said even bad food tastes good when it's made by him. Meanwhile, Mai was sitting there burning with anger but pretending she didn't care. Things kept going like that, Zheng ignoring her and treating Joe nicely, until they finished eating and the day ended like that. Days passed quickly, and we see Zheng in the shooting room practicing and messing around a bit. Suddenly his phone rings. It's an unknown number. What's weird is that it's calling his regular line, not WeChat or anything like that. Zheng thinks it might be some relative or something, but then remembers he doesn't really care about anyone but himself, so he blocks the number once and for all, but then it calls again. That makes him doubt himself, thinking maybe he pressed something wrong and didn't actually block it. Even after confirming 100% that he blocked the number, it calls again. That's when he starts thinking this person must be a hacker, so he finally answers just to see what they want. The first thing the caller asks him is why Zheng has been blocking him multiple times. Then Zheng asked him another question, trying to find out who he was. But the guy on the other end started listing everything about Zheng. His name, that he used to live in Building 25 in Tianhai City, and even that he's now living in the Simming Mansion. At that point, Zheng started getting a little nervous. He asked the guy who he was and what he wanted. The stranger said he was actually someone living near Zheng in the city he's in right now, and made it clear that he'd spread all this information everywhere unless Zheng gave him a share of his resources. As usual, Zheng replied calmly, saying he wasn't scared at all. Even if all his information got exposed, nobody would care enough to look for him. He's just an ordinary guy. The stranger laughed and said he knows everything about him, and he's even sure Zheng is the one who took all the supplies from the Schengen warehouse. Zheng fired back, saying that's nonsense. There's no way he could steal a warehouse that big. Obviously, the manager is the one who stole everything, just like the investigation says. The stranger laughed again and said he's 100% sure about his info because he's Fanda. Zheng froze. He knew that name very well. It belongs to the head of one of the biggest private investigation and intelligence companies. That explains how Fanda managed to hack his phone and call him even after being blocked. The scarier part, this hacker might even be able to break into the security systems of the Simming Mansion. Still, Zheng forced himself to calm down. He thought about it and realized that doesn't make sense. If Fanda could really hack the mansion's security, he would have threatened him with that instead of using personal information. So he snapped out of it and told Fanda he's always admired his company. Fanda immediately told him to cut the act and stop changing the subject. He made it clear that he knows Zheng has been steadily providing resources for the two girls, so adding a third person wouldn't be a problem for him. Zheng tried to play dumb, saying he's just a supervisor at a small warehouse and there's no way he has that kind of resources. But Fanda calmly replied that he never says anything unless he's sure. He even told him straight up that he hacked his phone and read his messages, which confirmed he has things like rice and other supplies. While Fanda was talking, Zheng was boiling with anger, thinking he has to kill this guy no matter what it takes. Still, he tried to lie, saying he sold most of his supplies a long time ago because he didn't have space to store them. Fanda didn't care. He said he doesn't need excuses. If Zheng doesn't give him what he asked for, he'll expose the warehouse theft and completely ruin his life. And once that news spreads, people with abilities will definitely come after his mansion. There's no way Zheng could handle that many enemies at once. After hearing that, Zheng finally said he agrees to the deal, but if even a single piece of his information leaks, it's over. Fanda replied that he's not stupid enough to lose a free supply source like that. Then he listed what he wants: food, alcohol, clothes, boxers, and a bunch of other stuff. He also told Zheng to personally bring everything to Villa 302, warning him that if he senses any betrayal, he'll release all the information immediately. Zheng reassured him, saying he's living comfortably right now and doesn't mind letting him live comfortably too, as long as his information stays safe. But the moment he hung up, Zheng was furious. He hates being threatened, and he swore he's going to kill that guy, Fanda, at the first chance he gets. Right after that, he headed to the living room where Joe was. He tried to calm himself down a bit, then told Joe he needed to talk to her about something important and get her opinion real quick. When she asked what it was, he told her there's a hacker who found out about their resources and is threatening to expose everything if they don't give him a share. Joe told him she knows this type of people very well. Even though they might be really smart, most of the time they're actually cowards and pretty weak. Zheng replied that he knows that too, and he even wants to kill the guy, but he's worried the hacker might have a backup plan or someone ready to release the info if anything happens to him. Still, Zheng said his pride won't let him just sit there and be threatened like that. For once, Joe actually said something useful. She explained that most hackers, when they blackmail someone and feel their life could be in danger, upload the data to a server, and set it up so it gets released automatically if they die or go missing. Zheng nodded and said he's heard about that too. Basically, the server can detect if the hacker is gone, like if he doesn't log in for a certain period, maybe a day or whatever time he sets. Because of that, Zheng realized he has no choice but to let Fanda keep threatening him for now, at least until he finds a way out of this mess. At that moment, Mai walked in and noticed he looked stressed. She asked what was wrong, so he told her to sit down and explained everything from start to finish, hoping she might have some insight. After hearing the whole story, Mai said situations like this are actually very common in the entertainment industry. Rumors spread fast and people believe them instantly, but proving they're false later takes a long time. That's when Zheng got a dangerous idea. Since the information Fanda has about his resources isn't backed by solid proof, Zheng could easily turn it into just rumors and make people treat it like gossip instead of facts. After that, the conversation ended and Zheng went back to the control room. There he called Fanda, who immediately asked why he was taking so long with the resources. Zheng told him he's still preparing everything since he didn't have it all ready, and even admitted he would have killed him already if it wasn't for the information he's holding over him. Fanda laughed and told him to forget any thoughts about betrayal. He said he already set up a program that will send messages containing Zheng's information to every resident in Tianhai City within 24 hours of his death. That's when Zheng realized something important. Fanda probably set the timer based on their last call, meaning the system is counting from now. So Zheng told him he's on his way right now and will bring everything he asked for. After hanging up, Zheng said it's time to start spreading rumors. He went on to the most popular forums and started posting about the missing supplies from the Schengen warehouse. In those posts, he mentioned different people, saying authorities suspect them of stealing the goods. His goal was simple: flood everything with rumors so no one knows who actually did it. That way, when Fanda's message comes out and includes Zheng's name, people won't really care or take it seriously. I mean, nobody's gonna go hunting for those supplies in the middle of storms anyway. Still, even with all that, there's one problem: the threat from Tianhai residents once they receive the messages directly from Fanda's phone. But Zheng wasn't worried. He said he'd rather fight multiple battles than let someone blackmail him like that. After that, he grabbed a bag full of supplies and headed out to meet Fanda, saying he won't come back unless he kills him and makes an example out of him. And sure enough, after a while, he arrived in front of Fanda's house, placed the bag of supplies at the entrance, and left it there. Then he moved away and decided to watch from a distance with a sniper rifle, planning to take Fanda out the moment he stepped outside to grab the bag. After putting enough distance between them, Zheng took position with the sniper somewhere Fanda couldn't possibly spot him. He sent him a message saying the stuff he asked for was right in front of his house, and waited. Zheng stayed there for over half an hour, but it looked like Fanda had no intention of coming out. Zheng started getting annoyed and thought about texting him again to ask why he hadn't taken the supplies yet. But luckily he caught himself. That would have been a stupid move. If he sent that message, it would basically confirm he's outside waiting, and the only reason someone would wait outside like that is if they were planning to kill him. So Zheng decided to stay put and wait it out, no matter how long it takes. After a few hours, the door finally opened. Fanda stepped out holding his gun. Once he made sure no one was near the bag, he reached out to grab it, and that gave Zheng the perfect shot. Zheng fired clean hit straight to the middle of his head, dropped him instantly. Zheng was over the moon. He was already sick of holding that sniper position. He rushed over to the house and unloaded more bullets into Fanda's body just to make sure he was dead for good. Then he went straight for the laptop to deal with the whole message problem. At first, he thought about destroying it immediately to stop the program from sending out his information. But then he changed his mind and stored it away instead. He's sure it contains valuable data about other people too. Plus, he's confident the laptop won't be able to send anything while it's in storage. At that point, Zheng had done everything he could to prevent his info from spreading. Still, he knew Fanda might have already uploaded some data online that could get released later. So Zheng decided to take it a step further. He started sending messages himself to the people of Tianhai, trying to confuse them. He flooded them with names of different suspects in the warehouse theft so no one could figure out who the real culprit was. Time passed and Zheng finally returned to the mansion. He was about to sit down and eat, but first he asked Zhou and Mai if either of them had received any messages in the past few hours. Mai said yeah, she got a bunch of messages but didn't understand any of them. Zhou added that the sheer number of messages left her completely confused. Zheng explained that he was the one behind it. He did all that to bury the real messages containing his information, which might still get sent out. On top of that, he spammed forums and the internet with fake info, accusing well-known people of stealing the warehouse supplies. The idea is simple. When people receive over 100 different messages, they won't even bother reading them. And even if they do, they'll never figure out he's the one who actually stole the warehouse. The two girls were confused, though. They pointed out that a lot of people didn't even know about the warehouse theft in the first place. Now, because of what he did, everyone in Tianhai will know. Zheng replied that he was just a supervisor at a small branch warehouse, so no one would suspect him. People will assume the thief must be someone important from a powerful family. Mai jumped in, impressed, saying his plan is genius. She said this kind of thing happens all the time in the entertainment industry. If a rumor hits a small or unknown actor, people forget about it the moment a bigger rumor about a more famous actor shows up. But then Joe cut in and pointed out something important. He sent those messages using the system inside the mansion. Anyone with decent tech knowledge could trace the IP address and find his location. The moment she said that, you could see the frustration hit Zheng. Mai realized she might have messed up, so she quickly tried to backtrack and told Zheng she didn't mean to underestimate him. She added that, realistically, the number of people who can actually trace where those messages came from is very small. Zheng calmly replied that she's right. He knows he can't completely hide the traces of the messages no matter what he does. But still, he's confident that what he did will significantly reduce the number of enemies they'll face. Most of their future problems will likely come from people working at major telecom companies. Basically, the ones who really know their way around the internet. Then he told them straight up he already killed Fanda. He made it clear he'd never allow anyone to threaten him. He reassured them that the mansion they're in is heavily fortified, and no one could break in unless they have insanely advanced weapons. After that, he said he'll need their help to set traps around the mansion. Even though the outer defenses are strong, the internal defenses are weak and need serious work. The two girls got excited immediately and told him to just say what needs to be done. They'll handle it. Zheng didn't waste a second. He stood up and told them they can start right away. He pulled out some tools from storage and called them over to explain the plan. He told them all the traps will be placed in the area between the mansion and the outer wall. They'll hide nails under the snow so anyone who manages to get past the wall steps right onto them. He warned them to memorize the trap locations carefully, or they might fall into them themselves. The nails will be embedded in wooden boards and buried under the snow, making them completely invisible. Then Zheng brought out animal traps and told them these are some of the best. Anyone who gets caught in one will have their bones crushed, won't be able to move, and the cold will finish them off. He showed them exactly how to set them up and told them to focus on placing those two types of traps around the mansion, while he'll take care of the rest. Looking out the window, Zheng pointed out there are two main roads leading to the mansion. So he decided to plant mines there, making sure any vehicle passing through would blow up. Still, he reminded himself to be extremely careful and memorize where he placed them. If he accidentally runs over one with his snowmobile, he's dead on the spot. After thinking things through, he went to check on Joe and Mai and found that they had already made a large number of traps. That impressed him, so he took them outside the mansion to show them exactly where to place everything. Once he finished guiding them, he went on to dig and plant the mines himself to secure the area against vehicles. Even though the mines were placed shallow under the snow, he was confident the snowfall would eventually cover any traces. Then he realized something else. He needs a way to protect the regular traps too. If someone experienced attacks them, they could easily disable those traps and either escape or break into the mansion. So he came up with another idea. He connected the traps together with a triggering system, so if anyone tries to remove one randomly, they all go off at once. With that, Zheng completed the defensive line around the mansion. And if anyone somehow manages to get through all that, and also survive the sleeping gas and flamethrowers inside, then Zheng himself will step in and fight using his special abilities. Strangely enough, when they went back inside, Mai was super excited. She kept asking Zheng when enemies would attack because she wanted to see them fall into the traps. Zheng looked at her like, wait, you actually want people to attack us or what? Zheng then told her there's no way anyone's attacking them anytime soon. The ice apocalypse has been going on for a while now, and anyone still alive is probably smart enough not to attack a heavily fortified mansion like this. The only reason someone would even try is if they're desperate and can't find resources anywhere else. Even after that, Mai couldn't stop thinking about it. She still wanted to see people fall into the traps so all her effort wouldn't go to waste, but her weird thoughts got interrupted when she heard a noise nearby. She looked over and saw Zheng installing metal latches on all the room doors. She asked him why he's doing that when the doors are already made of solid metal and hard to break. Zheng explained that everything in the mansion is connected to a central computer system, so if someone hacks it, they could unlock all the doors easily. But by adding manual locks and latches, it becomes much harder to break in. A few minutes later, Zheng finished reinforcing the doors and told the girls everything is now fully secured. They can live in this mansion safely for the rest of their lives. Mai stood there smiling, saying she made the right choice this time. Zheng is cautious, and he'll definitely be one of the few who survive the end of the world. Meanwhile, Zheng was thinking that the only thing left now is cybersecurity. And since he said it out loud, Mai heard him and mentioned they have a relative named Shen Shen who's really good with that kind of stuff. Joe reacted immediately, saying Shen Shen was studying at a university in Tianhai, so there's a high chance she's already dead. Then she explained to Zhang that Shen Shen is one of the craziest hackers out there. She won every international competition she entered under her university's name. Even though she lost the ability to walk when she was young and became paralyzed, she worked insanely hard to reach that level in hacking and cybersecurity. When Zheng heard that, he got really interested and asked Mai if she knows where Shen Shen is or if she can contact her. Mai said Shen Shen never replied to her, even before the disaster, and after it happened, she still couldn't reach her. Zheng then said that someone with Shen Shen's skills can contact anyone anytime she wants. So if she hasn't reached out, it probably means she just doesn't respect Mai and thinks she's not worth it. Mai's face instantly turned red, and she asked him if he's basically saying the same thing Joe said earlier. Zheng replied that a genius like Shen Shen would never go ask an actress for help if she needed anything. That completely pissed Mai off, and she snapped at him like, "You're such a jerk." Meanwhile, Zheng was thinking to himself that he needs to recruit Shen Shen to his team. She'd be extremely useful. Plus, she wouldn't be much of a threat to him since she's paralyzed, and on top of that, she's probably pretty, just like Mai and Joe. In his head, he's already imagining building himself a whole harem at the end of the world. Time passed quickly, and we see Zhang standing in some kind of training ground. He says that Fanda's message got completely buried under the flood of messages he sent out himself. Plus, the info Fanda had was only surface level. He didn't even know about Zheng's storage ability. Because of that, Zheng is confident that normal people won't come after him. Just like he said before, the only ones who might reach him are hackers who could trace the source of the messages. He then continued his training, saying he managed to improve his storage ability. Now he can use it to increase both the speed and accuracy of his arrows. So when he fires an arrow, you can see it's way faster than usual, and on top of that, it hits the exact same spot as the previous arrow, to the point where it actually shatters the old arrow. At that point, Zhang decides to call this technique the super aiming technique, since he can use it with bows or any other weapon. On top of that, he discovers he can wrap his entire body in void energy. When he does that, his speed doubles and he becomes even stronger. Naturally, this has Zhang super hyped, especially since all these upgrades happened in just half a month. Also, since he found out his storage space has so many other uses, he decides to rename it the Void Space to better describe his ability. But as with all power, there's a price. Zhang mentions that using his ability continuously drains a ton of energy. This means he has to be well fed before any battle to keep using his ability for as long as possible. Looking at it, he figures other ability users probably need to eat a lot just like him, which actually makes him super happy. He says he has a huge advantage over everyone else because of how many resources he has on hand. After putting all these crazy 4D chess thoughts together, he feels like there's no way he could lose a 1v1. No matter how strong the opponent's ability is. After that, we cut to an underground base where Shanshan, the leader of the organization, is stressing out over the base's energy problems. Suddenly, a woman in a military uniform walks in and tells him they've finished investigating all the messages that were sent out. Turns out, they all came from the exact same source, Villa 101. As you might have guessed, my friend, that's where Zhang lives. The secretary continues, noting that only one out of all those messages came from a different source. Specifically, Feng, who lives in Villa 302 and happens to be the head of one of the biggest telecommunication companies. When Shanshan sees this message, he asks if they have any info on this Zhang guy. The secretary replies that Zhang is just a small-time warehouse manager for one of Shanshan's branches, adding that there is absolutely no connection between him and Feng. Shanshan is skeptical, saying there is no way a tiny manager like that could have stolen all the resources. Because of that, he's convinced that at most, Zhang only took a small portion of the stuff, which explains why a guy like Zhang is still breathing right now. Naturally, the secretary starts to butter him up, calling his analysis flawless. Shanshan continues his train of thought, speculating that the warehouse owners themselves knew about the whole disaster before it happened, pulled all their resources out, and tried to frame some poor working-class managers so no one would investigate them and cause trouble down the line. The secretary, still sucking up to him, says his logic makes perfect sense. Shanshan then asks if they should send someone to investigate Zhang, agrees with his own suggestion, and tells her to send a small squad to Yanchi City. That way, they can look into Zhang while also searching for resources there, since the city is full of rich people. If we head back to Wujia village, where the tornado guy Chum is chilling, we see him lying down and complaining about losing his last fight against Zhang. With everything that's happened, he's starting to feel like he's not the chosen protagonist anymore, just a side character in this new world. But as he's venting his frustrations, he starts checking the messages blowing up his phone. Since he's a total hacker god, he decides to track down the source of the messages because they look pretty suspicious. In just a few hours, he manages to pinpoint the source and realizes they all came from the same person, except for one. And of course, that's the message accusing Zhang of robbing the biggest warehouse in China. Chum is totally baffled, wondering how a single person could have stolen over $10 billion worth of goods without. Then it hits him, he remembers that in this new era, people have superpowers. If someone has a storage or spatial ability, they could definitely do something like that. Keep in mind, Chum is an otaku who actually has a PhD in anime and sci-fi. Because of that, he gets lost in thought, realizing that whenever he attacked Zhang, his attacks suddenly vanished and Zhang reappeared out of nowhere, almost like he was stored in a completely different dimension. From this line of thought, Chum concludes that Zhang must have the ability to teleport things into a void dimension, which also explains how a poor warehouse manager managed to get his hands on such an expensive sled. Still, he goes back to crying to Feng, asking why Zhang got a much better ability than his. After calming down a bit, he says he's convinced Zhang is the true protagonist of the story, while he's just a mini-boss whose role is to die by Zhang's hand just to boost Zhang's level. After all, his own ice and snow control ability doesn't even come close to Zhang's overpowered abilities. That's what makes him decide that from now on, he'll never try to be Zhang's enemy. In fact, he needs to get on his good side and become his friend. He runs off, shouting that he has to warn the whole village not to get close to Zhang or mess with him. Naturally, the most important person to tell is the village chief. Chum runs over, calling out to him, only to find the chief sipping a hot drink. The chief is surprised, since this is the first time Chum has left his room without anyone forcing him. Chum completely ignores the teasing and tells him he needs to talk about something incredibly important. When the chief asks what it is, Chum starts telling the whole story at 4 times the normal speed. When he finishes, he's out of breath, drinks some water, and explains to the chief that they must never go near Zhang or bother him, and that they even need to change their hunting routes so they don't get anywhere near Yanchi City. However, the old man's eyes light up like a fox. He asks Chum if he's absolutely sure that Zhang has all those resources from the Shanshan warehouse. Chum replies that he's 100% sure because whoever stole them must have a supernatural ability, and a spatial or void-related one at that. The old man starts spacing out, thinking out loud and saying that if they take those resources, they'll be able to live comfortably for years. Hearing that, Chum steps in and tells him to drop the idea entirely. But the old man tells him not to worry, pointing out that there are over 100 of them in Wujia village, and if they team up with the other villages in Chang City, their numbers will exceed 1,000. Because of that, the chief is confident that if they all go and attack together, they'll definitely be able to kill Zhang and take his stuff. Chum replies, completely terrified, saying he doesn't have a good feeling about Zhang, and feels like his ability has a lot of hidden aspects they know nothing about. The old man tells Chum that he's become a coward just because he lost to Zhang once, and reassures him that the villagers are used to fighting because they were in a constant state of war with neighboring villages when they were young. Because of this, he's confident that all the young men in the village are ready to step into a life-or-death battle just to guarantee a future for their women and children. Cutting back to Zhang's place, we see him eating, focusing entirely on the weather as usual. It seems Mei has already gotten used to it, saying the most important thing to her is finding someone who will provide free food and drinks just like Zhang is doing right now. But her thoughts are interrupted by the sound of people coming from outside the estate. Zhang quickly gets up to see what's going on. Being the badass that he is, he tells the others to keep eating while he handles the intruders himself. He climbs out the window, grabs his binoculars to check the number of thieves, and realizes there are a lot of them. But he's confident they aren't carrying firearms, since their clothes look like those of villagers, and he's sure they are. From the Wujia village crowd, Zhang pulls out his trusty sniper rifle, confident that regular folks like them can't possibly breach the estate. He decides to let them walk straight into the traps while he scans the crowd for Chum. After all, if Chum is with them and gets too close to the estate, his ice abilities could actually pose a threat. As the villagers approach the mansion, hyped up about what they're going to find inside, one of them stupidly steps into a trap and starts screaming in agony. His buddy rushes over, asking what happened, and Abu Wardi, the guy in pink, tells him his foot got pierced by a trap hidden under the snow. Abu Labni, the guy in white, yells at everyone to get the guy treated immediately, and warns the rest of the villagers that there are tons of traps buried under the snow. The chief steps up and tells everyone to watch their step, though he tries to brush it off, claiming these weak traps won't stop them for long. To figure out where the traps are, the old man suggests they use sticks and branches to probe the ground before walking. Wasting no time, the villagers start following his lead, and they actually manage to spot some of the wooden traps, getting super hyped that the old man's plan is working. But Zhang is just watching through his scope. He knew this would happen, which is why he prepared and planted explosives as a second line of defense in case they made it past the spiked traps. Seconds later, while one of the villagers is trying to clear out a trap, his foot catches a tripwire connected to the bombs. It triggers a massive explosion in the middle of the crowd, taking out a huge number of them. Even though some of the villagers manage to escape unscathed, others get hit by shrapnel. We see one guy writhing in pain on the ground, and because of his frantic thrashing, he accidentally triggers another rope, setting off a second massive explosion that wipes out even more villagers. Seeing this, the rest of the thieves start fleeing the estate, saying they don't even care about the resources anymore. they just want to stay alive. Unfortunately, a few of them end up triggering more traps while running away and suffer serious injuries. At this point, Abu Labni starts panicking for the remaining young men, admitting he had no idea Zhang was this dangerous. He turns to the old man and says they are still over 100 meters away from the estate and won't be able to advance even a single step further without Chum's help. The villagers start putting pressure on the chief, telling him to call in Chum, because without him, they're all going to die before they even reach Zhang. Meanwhile, the old man thinks to himself that there's no way he's going to ask Chum for help, after he already bragged that they could take the estate without the help of a coward like him. On the other side, Zhang is watching through his scope, waiting for Chum to show up. Up until now, he hasn't been willing to kill anyone just yet to make sure they don't run off before he takes out Chum. On top of that, Zhang plans to wipe out the villagers if they try to retreat, figuring they're only 200 meters away, making them easy targets. His rifle has an effective range of 2,000 meters. That's 10 times the distance they are right now. Back with the old man, he's still fuming and refusing to swallow his pride, saying he absolutely won't beg his grandson Chum for help. He snaps at the villagers, telling them they can't rely on Chum for everything and that they need to stop acting like scared mice. He steps to the front and explains that all they need to do is move step by step and clear out the traps. Then, pointing at Zhang's estate,